What's up, you beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Unaligned and Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, Jack, or the Twisted Wanderer. And welcome back to another Scoli Sunday, where every Sunday we sit down and talk about all things scoliosis and spinal fusion. This Sunday, we are diving into a topic that was definitely skipped by my surgeon pre-surgery and post-op. And it's something I probably Googled a lot at 2 a.m. pre-surgery and after, just trying to find answers to. If you've guessed it, you've guessed right. Today, we're talking about sex after spinal fusion because it shouldn't feel awkward to bring this to your doctor, and your doctor should even bring this up, in my opinion, especially if you're someone who has surgery around, 25 years old. Could be helpful at that time. But nonetheless, these things were not brought to my attention, and I learned about them just through life itself. I have had my spinal fusion for 9 years this past September, and this September 2026 will be my 10-year spine anniversary. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to share the questions I wish I asked before my spinal fusion surgery. So if anyone's listening who may have spinal fusion coming up, or maybe you're just in the works of talking about spinal fusion surgery, bring these questions to your doctor and see what they say. And then I'll also be sharing just my own twisted truths about life and living with scoliosis and a spinal fusion and being intimate. So excited for today's episode. It is definitely something that we need to talk about more. So let's scoliosis. All right. So sex after spinal fusion. Yeah. I'll just like to start this off by saying absolutely it's going to be different, right? Sex just looks completely different after, having hardware in your body now. It will be different. It will take some getting used to. I will say in the beginning, it absolutely can feel as if you are a stranger in your own body, and we need to give ourselves grace. I know it may feel, especially like if we're younger having these surgeries, let's say like 21, 22, 20, I was 25 years old. I think the most important thing to understand here initially, right after surgery, like the most fragile we'll ever feel, because I want to say, like, you are not fragile, but the most fragile that we'll feel is when we are newly post surgery. I want to say that for me lasted, I want to say like 2.5 years. That's me being my journey. And what I mean by that, it's not just like the way that your body will feel, like very crisp, new, you ever like unwrap something and it just like, it's just brand new, like that type of feeling. Because when we think about spinal fusion surgery, I say this a lot, but like, we're trigger warning, just going to discuss like visual parts of surgery. You're cut open, right? And then like you're pulled apart, and we are moving bones and muscles, moving everything from where it lives. We're going to be sore for a long time, okay? And we're going to feel like a stranger. That's the best way I could explain it. I felt like a stranger in my body. So having said that, these are just things that I want you to think about before you start to jump ahead. I think a lot of the times we jump ahead after surgery. We're just like, I want to feel back to normal. I want to feel this. I want to feel that. But the truth of the matter is, we don't know our new normal. We have to take it day by day, moment by moment, when we're in those really newly fused years of getting our spinal fusion. So just want to say that before we go into everything else. All of our journeys are different. We all recover different. We are not behind nor ahead of someone else. These are just our journeys. And I just want you to hold grace for yourself and understand it takes our body a while to become or feel like ours again. So that's just what I will say about that before we move into some of these questions that I really wish I asked my surgeon before surgery. So a few of those questions are, okay, this one is so important. When is it safe to be intimate again, and what should I expect? Because most surgeons will give you like a vague timeline. I think I was told 8 weeks. Like, I don't even know. I just remember like 8 weeks being like movement. I know I was driving by November. I had my surgery in September, so I was driving by November. So that's around 8 weeks. So yeah, like 4 weeks. And that's kind of what they just say for like all activity. There was no like specifically for sex. Like, of course not. Why would we talk about something so important? So if they give a vague timeline, just ask like, oh, I understand that 8 weeks is good for driving, but what does it look like for intimacy and sex after spinal fusion? And try and get them to answer that, because if they're going to be vague, it just doesn't really help anyone. We need more information. I think that's my biggest, I hope, takeaway from this episode is going to be, we need more information before and after spinal fusion surgery, because a lot of us in this community that we're building to talk about scoliosis and spinal fusion more, we find these things out along the way. Like, all this that I'm saying is I found out along the way. No one gave me these answers. So if your doctor is being vague, don't let them gaslight you. Just keep asking the question. Be more direct. Write them down if you need to before going into the appointment. So you just know, hey, this is what I want to ask today. This is what I want answered. This is what I want to answer. And if it's too vague, let them know it's too vague. And if you're nervous to have these conversations, that is valid. Bring someone with you that you trust, whether it's a friend, your parent. Like, my mom was with me the entire way. I was 25 years old. I'm 34 now. I still need my mom for everything. Okay. No shame. Bring your support person with you to help you have these hard conversations, because they are hard conversations, but they shouldn't feel awkward. Like, no one should make you feel a certain way for talking about this. It's sex. We all have it. We all want to enjoy it. And we all need, the tools to set us up for success to have it if our body is going to be changing and if we're going to be going through things. So, yeah, bring your support person. If you feel like you need extra support to ask these questions, because that's so valid. Something that I wish I asked, but I don't know if they'd be able to give me this answer, but will my sensation change in my back, hips, or anywhere else? So I just wish I asked more things like this, because as someone who has had a spinal fusion for around almost 10 years, and as we recover through spinal fusion, I did notice that, like, I personally noticed now, I wouldn't have noticed then, right? But I personally noticed that my back from year 3 felt completely different from like 1 year post-op. And year 3 felt completely different from year 5. And year 7 felt different from year 5. So it's just like trying to understand that our bodies and our scoliosis and spinal fusion are always, I don't know if I'm going to say it for me at least, but it's always changing. And personally, what I think that may be is it's like we're compensating, right? Our body's learning how to compensate because of our spinal fusion and the fuse, what's not fused above and below. Like, our body learns to compensate over time. And we could talk more about this in a different episode. But for today's purpose, what I'm trying to get across here is that our body is always changing. So like our back and our hip things may feel different over time. They may feel better over time. They may feel worse over time. You need to pay attention to these movements. And I think it just would have been really helpful to ask this because I don't know if it's possible for them to like speak to patients after spinal fusion years, like at different points of recovery, but I really wish they did because I think it would be so helpful for us, like the person going under at that time, to kind of just get like a window into what it may be like years down the road. But that's just something I really wish I asked. Just asking about how sensations may change, especially in our back, right? That's essentially where our scar is. That's where we were opened. So, and that's where we're fused. So things are going to change. Like I feel way less rigid. Is that the correct word? Like rigid or tight compared to year one. Like on year 9 right now, I feel more. I'm just wiggling right now if you're not on camera, but that's kind of what I'm doing. Like I just feel more mobile. Yeah. Like year 9 compared to year 1. And another thing I think we should definitely ask is something that may have helped, I feel like, is to just ask, like, how do I talk to my partner or the person I'm going to have sex with about what's changed? I think for, my younger self, I definitely didn't have the words. So I feel like it's something I wish I would have asked. Like, how do I have these conversations, right? Because if you have a surgeon or a doctor, they have hard conversations. Like as someone who's worked in the medical field, like doctors have to have hard conversations with people. They have to tell people of diagnoses. They have to tell people of prognoses. Like they're used to having hard conversations. Maybe, I mean, I know I definitely wasn't. Like this is a hard conversation to have, And as someone who didn't have a partner at surgery or post-op, these conversations looked different for me because I didn't have a relationship. So I kind of just wished I asked, like, how do I have these conversations? Like, what are things to say to start these conversations? How do I have these conversations? Like, that's where I'm coming from with this. I wish I would have just asked my doctor, how do I talk to someone about what's changed? How do I talk to someone about my needs for, sex with a spinal fusion? What do those conversations look like? So that is definitely something I wish I asked. What positions or movements should I avoid long term, not just during recovery, right? Like ask, is there anything, because I feel like a lot of what we get post fusion surgery is like, just be careful. Like that's really all I remember. Like just be careful. Like you just had this huge ass fucking surgery and people are just like, just be careful. It's just like, what? So definitely ask like, what movements should I avoid long term? Because your body changes. And then another one that I really wish that I asked. This one is huge for me because I feel like it goes into what we'll talk about next. Is it normal to feel disconnected from my body after surgery? I wish I asked this question. Or just I wish I asked like some version of it, but I didn't have the words for it. So that's like the point of this is just if any of this helps and helps you get the words to have these conversations with your doctor, that's what I'm hoping for. Because this one specific question is so important with sex and spinal fusion, because if we feel disconnected to ourselves and our bodies, how are we supposed to feel intimate with ourselves and our body? And I think for myself, at least, like those first few those first few months of spinal fusion surgery recovery, it really does feel like just a big disconnect because you think you feel so tight, you feel so straight because you just had the surgery, and part of you, like, I don't know if part of me feels like if you ever seen like the skeleton hanging in A&P class where like the skeleton is like hanging by, yeah, it's just hanging and like it's hanging by the head and the rest of the body just goes, woo. That's kind of how my lumbar spine felt after spinal fusion surgery because I think I'm only fused till L1. So like, no, I gotta look at my damn paperwork. And that's how it makes me feel. Like I felt disconnected. It's almost like you feel like there's two parts of you. And I just feel like having these conversations with my surgeon would have helped me understand how my body would have felt with sex. And like, when is it safe to be intimate again? What should I expect? I know I already said that one, but it's so important because if we don't talk about what to expect, we can build it up in our minds to just be, gosh, sometimes I think back to my first time having sex after spinal fusion surgery, and it was just like so terrible. It's like losing my virginity for a second time, and it was just bad again. Like it was terrible. So I don't want that for other people. And why it was terrible, because I guess we'll just move into me talking about my life. Well, let's talk about it. Why was it terrible? Well, I didn't ask any of those questions that we just talked about. And I pretty much was a 25-year-old young woman who just wanted so badly to get back to normal that I just had sex. I don't know why we do these things to ourselves, but let's talk about it. So for me, it was terrible, right? Like I just said, it was like losing my virginity for a second time. Because kind of it is. If you think about it, it's the first time you're giving your body away and your body is new and it's different and it moves different again. It's a very intimate and vulnerable place to be. And as mentioned before, I wasn't someone who was in a relationship during this period. So I didn't, like, I guess I just wish that I didn't feel like I had to get back to normal. I think that's something we do as women. We put this pressure on ourselves to get back out there, whether it's like when women have fucking kids because they're warriors and like amazing human beings who have children. And then, like, I feel like, because I see it in, shout out my lovely sister, I see it in her like wanting to just get back to normal and bounce right back to things, and I'm just like, whoa, woman, calm down. You just birthed an entire human being, right? But like there's this pressure on ourselves like after major things to just get back to normal, and it's like, what? Our whole normal is different now because we're different now. What is normal? Give yourself some grace. So that's what I hope you take away from this. Like, there is no rush back to getting back to intimacy. Yes. Do we want to get back to intimacy? Do you want to enjoy intimacy after spinal fusion surgery? Is it possible? Abso-fucking-lutely. Okay. It's amazing. Love me some sexy time. Okay. But we need to make sure we're not rushing back to this. So that's what I did. I kind of like rushed back to it. Was it good sex? Absolutely not. Did I rip the Band-Aid off? Sure. Yeah, whatever. But it wasn't good. And that's kind of like, that's my biggest twisted truth of the day is just like, don't rush after spinal fusion surgery. And to share a timeline, I think I had spinal fusion surgery in September, and my first intimate relationship well, like not relationship, like first time being intimate, having sex again after spinal fusion was, I think it was March of 2017. So October, November, December, January, February, March. So I had sex about 6 months after spinal fusion surgery. And I would say at that point in time, I mean, I was a starfish. I definitely like did starfish time. Like that was really all I could do. And if no one knows what starfish is, I guess it's just like when you lay there, you don't do much because, you know, you're not feeling too hot, okay? Like I definitely didn't like, 9-year post-op me can now enjoy herself and like be on top again. But I couldn't do that at 6 months. So that's something I just like to share. Our positions look different over time. And there are some positions we'll never do again. Okay. Like, let's talk about that. Never ever. What is standing doggy style? I can't do that. Okay. No, the only way we're doing doggy style is if we're on the bed with a pillow tucked underneath my tummy and probably in my corrective posture these days. Not back in the day, but these days you can find me bent over with pillow doing corrective posture because why not? Why not add some Scoli exercises into intimacy? A little 2-for-1 deal here, right? But I think I digress. What I was trying to say, let's go back, is we don't want to rush this. And that sex definitely looks different from 6 months to 9 years. So I will say freshly post-op, more so going to be like, missionary position, going to be relaxed. And then I don't think I told this person about my surgery either. So I was kind of uncomfortable. And that's something I'd like to touch on here. We want to definitely make sure if we are freshly newly post-op. I'm looking at you because I'm like just staring at myself, yelling at my younger self. We definitely want to tell the person that we're with if we're freshly post-op, if we're not in if this isn't our partner, like, those conversations look different. Like your partner went with you through surgery and like blah, blah, blah. This is specifically for people who don't have a consistent partner while they have spinal fusion surgery. You at least want to have the conversation, I think. I think this would have helped me a little bit more because there were points where I felt uncomfortable, but I just didn't want to talk about my spinal fusion surgery. Again, I was just trying to go back to normal, just pretending I didn't have spinal fusion surgery. Like, that's not the way to go. We want to honor our bodies and love our bodies. And the best way that we can do that is by acknowledging that our body is our body with the spinal fusion in it and having those conversations and just letting someone know, hey, this is what's going on. I may need to adjust throughout if I feel a certain way. And that's it. It could be as simple as that. But when we don't have those conversations, we can put ourselves in situations that maybe aren't the best for us. And if I can avoid anyone doing that to themselves, that's why I have these conversations, because it's really important to have these conversations. So yeah, just let someone know that you've had a spinal fusion surgery. If you are newly post-op and wanting to be intimate with this person, give them a heads up and just talk about it and share what you need. I think the biggest thing we have to learn here, and that I'm like learning, is we can create boundaries for our body and boundaries for our spinal fusion surgery, boundaries for our spine. So we know that we're taking care of it and we're not just trying to get back to normal, right? So that's my little tidbit on that situation. But another thing I've definitely learned, going back to positions, right? Because there's so many different types of positions. But I want to share a few of my favorites, right? I think it's really important to talk about just fun stuff, because yes, this is very serious and we need to talk about these things, but it's also fun, right? So I'm not even kidding. Yes, with corrective exercises, but doggy style is definitely one of my faves. If it is like set up how we need it to be, like how I just said, pillow, Scoli prop even. I know, like, also there's chairs, so many different props and things to make sex more comfortable with a spinal fusion. So definitely look into those. I right now just use like a bit like pillows, but I think sometimes with spinal fusion and sex and how I've thought about it sometimes as like a 34-year-old woman, or even when I was younger, um, I think I thought of it as like not taking, no. I think sometimes we think about things and we make ourselves feel bad. And I think I honestly think it's just internal ableism, like how we think sex should look, right? But there is no one way that sex should look. So it is still sexy if you need to put a pillow under you for sex to do doggy style. It is still sexy. It doesn't take away any of your sexiness. If you need a scoliosis prop, it doesn't take away the sexiness. Like, that's something I want to get across too here. It's just because you need a prop, it doesn't make it any less sexy. And if you're with someone who makes you feel a certain way, tell them to go fuck themselves, quite literally, because we're not doing that. We're not doing them. They can go do themselves if they're going to be a little asshole. So just keep that in mind, because that's something that I've definitely fought with inside as well. Like, just thinking it needs to look a certain way at a certain age. But at the end of the day, we're human beings and we all have our own journeys, and we just need to make sure that we're taken care of while we have sex. Like, that's the goal, right? So, that little tidbit out of the way. Doggy style, I would definitely say, cowgirl. Cowgirl on top is great with the spinal fusion. I also do those are, I would say, doggy style, cowgirl, and even reverse cowgirl. Reverse cowgirl, again, put a pillow in the front so you can go more forward and be comfortable. So those three are my favorite for myself with the spinal fusion. If we want to talk about ones that I'm not never doing again, anything that involves twisting or being a contortionist, that's not going to happen. And that's okay. But yeah, and this is just a forever journey, is what I want to get across here. It's like we're always going to be changing. Our bodies are always going to be changing. So we just need to make sure we listen to our beautiful spine, and that we don't overcompensate. And that we're with people, and that we're with people that we can trust to be ourselves with and to be intimate with. And a way to get there that I feel like definitely isn't talked about, now I'm getting shocked about you all with now, is a way to get there. If you maybe don't have, excuse me, guys. If you maybe don't have, a consistent partner, or however you live your beautiful sex life, however it may look like, I think the most important thing to do before we go out and give ourselves to anyone is to make sure that we feel good with ourselves, and that we love ourselves, and that we feel connected to ourselves. So yes, what's the next sentence here I'm going to say? That we play with ourselves. Okay? Um, because that's how we learn. I think one of the other biggest fears that I had was having the big O right after spinal fusion surgery. And I definitely did it. Not with 6-month person. No big O there. Just why do we even do things sometimes? Like that was just to get back to normal. That was just so terrible. Whatever. So having the big O after spinal fusion surgery, I feel like I was really afraid to do that because of how, back to this word, fragile I felt. And I just want you to know you're not going to feel fragile all the time because you're not fragile. And a good way to try and see how you may feel is if you are comfortable with this is playing with yourself and getting some toys, whatever you need to do to explore that, because that's a good way to tell if maybe there would be pain. Like, I know it'd probably be hard to stop, but like if you are doing that with yourself and you feel like you are going to reach climax, like the best way to tell if you may experience pain during that is to do that yourself. And I think sometimes we get so nervous even to do that, but I think it's really important to do because it can help us know how we'll feel when we bring that, when we go to the next step, and like outside of self pleasure is pleasure with someone else. So just seeing how you feel with that can be really, really helpful before moving that with a partner and sharing that with someone else. So I hope that makes sense. There's a lot we could talk about with sex after spinal fusion. I just want to keep talking. I feel like I kind of went all over the place with this episode. But the biggest takeaway that I want everyone to take is that you are beautiful in your body. Your scar is beautiful. Your spine is beautiful. And you deserve to be taken care of. And you deserve to feel safe and comforted in your body. You deserve time to heal. You don't have to rush back to intimacy right after spinal fusion surgery. Sometimes, after my first time, after my first time, it was like a whole another year until I did have sex again. So, we go through these motions. You're learning your body. Like I am 9 years post-op and I'm still learning my body because I had my one spine for 25 years and I've only had this spine for 9. Okay? There's lots to learn. And we just need to be patient with ourselves, and we need to understand that it's not a race to get back, and that we got to love ourselves first. We got to, no, we got to think you're sexy with that bionic spine. You got to take care of it. You got to warm her up, let her bask in all her beautiful titanium glory, and just take care of her, because your spine, they're going to be there for you. Our spinal fusion carries us through a lot. I'm seriously so grateful. But please, whatever you do, whoever you do, be safe and make sure you feel respected. Make sure you feel safe. Make sure you feel like you can tell that person, hey, nope, switch it up. Just create those boundaries for yourself. Learn yourself. Explore what you need to make this, to make it something that you enjoy and not something you dread. I think when we don't talk about it, it can become this big thing that snowballs up, and then we just like get it over with. And that's kind of where I ended up. So if I can make anyone not end up there, and if you do end up there, hey, we can, you know, I see you. But yeah, I just share all this because I just I've lived it. And sometimes it's really hard to talk about. Like but we got to talk about it because it's so, so important. And I also did talk about this with two more amazing, beautiful people with the spinal fusion through the Bionic Project Back Talk. Myself, Meredith, the Bionic ballerina, and Laura, Dr. Laura, all talked about sex and spinal fusion through a back talk episode through the Bionic Project. I think that was in February. So I will post that link here because that was a really cool session as well. And I'll probably do more episodes on this to kind of break it down more. But for this one, I kind of just wanted to talk about it and just make it like this is a thing. We talk about it here because we're going to talk about everything here. So more on this to come. We're going to keep talking about sex, relationships, and all the things that have to do with scoliosis and spinal fusion as we continue our Scoli Sundays. But until then, if you enjoyed this episode, please comment, like, share the episode. All of that helps build our beautiful community bigger and stronger. And then please also as well keep an eye out for my website. It's going to be up, guys. The Twisted Collective. I'm really excited for that coming out in the next few weeks. And I think that was it. Yeah. But until then, I will see you all on Twisted Thursday. But I hope you have a beautiful Sunday. And until then, take care of your brain, take care of your spine. Love ya. Bye.